Firstly, I wanted to thank y'all for having me. It's not every day that I get to come back to where I graduated from and present to y'all, so thank y'all for having me, thank y'all for being attendant. I know that Colonel kind of covered all the bases, but my name is Perry Luzier, and I was a cadet here about 2 years ago. I was sitting in the same seats that you were, I was doing the same things you were. Now, what am I doing here? Why am I here? I'm here to present on personal development and provide you with some secrets to help you in high school and in college or in the military or wherever you choose to go. The skills that I discussed today can be applied anywhere in your future and even right now if you choose to. What I will say is that a lot of the things that I'm going to teach you today are from my mentors, personal development, business philosophers that I have studied over the past couple of years. The skills they've applied have changed my life drastically. And I hope that after today, you will find some sort of value in this presentation and in a way that it will help you as well. I will go ahead and tell you though that this stuff is not easy. If you're looking for easy, go somewhere else. This is stuff that takes a little bit of discipline. And those, I know that most of y'all probably don't care, but those that choose to apply the information that I have for you today will end up in a better place in life in the long term. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? And the first thing I wanted to talk about was a rather touchy subject, because it's a subject that a lot of us try to avoid, and that is responsibility. Yep, responsibility. A lot of us in society today tend to avoid responsibility. A lot of us try to make excuses to why we should accept it. At the end of the presentation today, that will not be the case, hopefully. And there's a very important thing to achieving a sense of responsibility, and that is a word, a sophisticated word that I like to call philosophy. Philosophy is nothing but a mindset. It's a way you think. You gotta use your mind. You gotta process concepts. You gotta create new ideas. You gotta use this wonderful thing that has been gifted to you. Your philosophy has a direct impact on everything in your life. More of an impact than you might think. It decides everything. The way you think decides who you hang out with. It decides who respects you, who doesn't. It decides your opportunities you're presented. It decides everything. So, also, if y'all want to take in some of this information out, I would recommend taking down some notes if you want to apply this information. Very important concept. You attract to you what you have based on the person you've become. This would be a very good thing to take down. You attract to you what you have based on the person you've become. Very important concept. If there's anything I want you to take away from today's presentation, that's it. What you're experiencing in your life. I know that it's very individualized, but what you're experiencing, your individual circumstances, are directly related to who you are as a person. And for some of us, that might be a little harder to swallow than others. But the good, the bad, the ugly, excellent, it's all related to you and the person you become. For some of our older cadets, you have a job. You work somewhere. McDonald's, Mushroom, you work somewhere. You work at a restaurant. You get a promotion, that's great. Accept responsibility for that. Take credit for the work you put in to get that extra dollar now. In the same way that if you were to fail a test, if you fail a test, you should take responsibility for that too. It's not your teacher's fault. It's not the school's fault. If I were a betting man, I would guess that the reason that you didn't pass your test is because you didn't adequately prepare for it. Now, there are situations in which there are exceptions to that rule, but in the vast majority of cases, you fail a test because you didn't prepare for it. So I really want to get y'all to think about what you can do 3 important things. Take this down. Don't wish it were easier. Wish that you were better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. It's very important to accept the fact that you can change anything and everything in your life. If you don't like where you are, change it. If you don't like your grades, change them. If you don't like what leadership role you're in, change it. If you don't like the fact that you're not in the leadership role, change it. It's easier said than done, but you have direct control over everything that happens in your life. The opportunities you're presented, the person you've become, the way people treat you, it all comes back to you. And part of this involves discipline. Now, discipline is a very hard word for some of us to swallow. But in order to achieve anything in life, it's one of the most important concepts to enter the human mind. Everything in life has a cost. Not a monetary cost. Some things do, but not everything. You got to start thinking about the other costs. You got to start thinking about the relationship cost, the life cost, the success cost. Everything has a price. And there's the 2 categories. You either have the price of discipline or the price of regret. Take this down if you want to take some notes. Very important to understand that every choice you make can go one of 2 ways. It can either be a good choice that positively affects you, or a poor choice that negatively affects you. Understand that these are also your choices that you make that negatively affect you or positively affect you depending on the choice that you make. Discipline is the key to making good decisions. And I want y'all to think about something. Don't answer, but just think about it in your head. What would we be if we didn't exercise the most basic disciplines? And I'm talking about the simple stuff. Waking up on time, making your bed, brushing your teeth every morning, showering every night. Basic disciplines. What would we be without those? You're thinking along the same lines as me, you're right. Not much. Without discipline, the world would become chaotic. Without discipline, everything would go crazy. Crime rates would go crazy. Unemployment will go crazy. The success of businesses would go downhill very quickly. And surprisingly enough, society is taking a less disciplined approach to almost everything, which actually works in your favor. Because for those that apply all this stuff that I'm discussing today, they will end up with a lot of money, with a lot of success, and they will be in a very desirable situation later in their life. So let's talk about how to get there. And the key word is resolve. It's important to take into account work ethic. Work ethic is a very important concept, and it's the stepping stone to success. In fact, humans are the only species on the planet with the choice to use it. Humans are the only species on Earth that will also do less than they possibly can. Just ask yourselves a question. Have you ever heard of a tree that grew half as high as it could? Probably not. Have you ever heard of a squirrel that collected less acorns than it possibly could? Again, probably not. But have you ever heard of a person that put in half as much effort as he or she possibly could? More than you know. And a lot of times, the deep root of that is a failure to accept responsibility for their problems. 2 years ago, when I was in your shoes, I had trouble giving up my own blame list. I had a tendency to blame other people for my problems. I had trouble accepting responsibility just like y'all are right now. Chances are, a lot of y'all struggle with it. Y'all make excuses most of the time. And that's no fault of your own, it's just who you are right now in your life. Y'all are high schoolers. Y'all don't know any better. But if I were you, I would make an effort to avoid making excuses. An excuse is nothing but a reason not to do something. And the way that the school system has made it, it makes it that an excuse is a reason to blow something off, which is one of the ways to make an excuse, but it's not the only way. An excuse is still an excuse, no matter how valid it is. Even if you have to miss school because you're sick, something that's out of your control, but it's still an excuse. So don't confuse an excuse with an explanation. People that make excuses are very easily discovered. And any exaggeration of the truth, including excuses, destroys our credibility. So I would refrain from excuses, because people see it less of you for it. In the same manner, though, people that refuse to make excuses and instead make a conscious decision to accept responsibility, you see, people see that too, and they will think more of you for it. You'll be surprised how beneficial it is simply to accept responsibility. It changes everything. So let's talk about success. That's one of the main reasons I'm here, to show y'all the things that you probably will not learn elsewhere. How many of y'all can define success?
Success is your vision, your goals, what your future looks like.
Very good. That's very close to what I was getting at, and it kind of covers parts of it. But I wanted to go on a little bit of a smaller scale. According to my mentors, success is defined simply this: a few simple disciplines practiced every day. If you are taking notes, take this down. This is very important. Success is defined as a few simple disciplines practiced every day. The reason behind this is a philosophy that I like to call the compound effect. Even the smallest decisions that you make, the ones that you don't think have an impact on anything, the ones you think don't matter. Decisions like snoozing your alarm for an extra 5 minutes. Decisions like refraining from eating an apple a day. Those decisions affect everything. Chances are, if you don't have the discipline to eat an apple a day or to wake up on time, chances are that will transition into other decisions. Chances are that will radiate into your ability to do your homework on time. It will radiate into your ability to complete your assignments, which will then radiate into your ability to find a job, which will radiate into your ability to eventually find a romantic partner. It will radiate into every decision. The small decisions matter more than you think they do. So writing along those lines, who can define failure? Exactly the same way. Failure is nothing but a few errors in judgment practiced every day. Again, something important to take down if you're taking notes. Failure is a few errors in judgment practiced every day. And it affects you the same way that success does, because it is the exact opposite of it. Something as simple as snoozing your alarm for 5 minutes And I know that the word failure is passed around pretty loosely these days, but I don't want you to take offense to my use of the word. Failure is not bad. We all fail every now and then. We all make mistakes. The important thing is that we learn from failure, and that we accept responsibility for our failures and learn from them. I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the most famous cliches in human history. And I've already mentioned it a little bit, but it's an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's easy to assume that this cliche only refers to our physical health, that it only refers to our nutrition. But it doesn't. It's a lot deeper than simply our physical health. Eating an apple a day refers to many things. The discipline to eat an apple a day will radiate into your discipline that it takes to dress well for a job interview. Eventually, after a while, some guy messed up the saying. He goes, "A Hershey bar a day?" You gotta say, no, it's not Hershey bar. You have to have a change in philosophy. Don't fall for the Hershey bar a day. It's an apple a day. Eat an apple a day, and you'll benefit from it. So another reason that I'm here is I wanted to discuss a little bit of financial stability with y'all. And of course, y'all are high schoolers. This will apply to you a little bit later. Once you're a junior or a senior, you'll start realizing that you need to accept financial responsibility for many of your assets. Especially once you graduate high school and when you start going into either the military, a career, a trade, or college. Financial responsibility, accepting it now, will put you in a better situation than it will otherwise. Once I started adopting these philosophies, it turned my life around. My first semester of college, I ended the year with $300. My second year, I'm fixing to end with $2,000 with my own money. Here's how I did it. I adopted a philosophy that my mentors adopted years ago. It's called 70-10-10-10. Take this down if you want to take some notes. What this means is I only spend 70% of my income. It's very important to start learning this now while you don't have a lot of money. Practice habits now, because once you get more money, it becomes harder. Make smart decisions now, not later. Don't procrastinate. So I only spend 70% of my income. And that's because I do a very interesting thing with the other 30%. 10% of my income, I put towards active capital. I invest it. I'm sure that over the years you've heard about investing. Every month, I take 10% of my monthly allotment and I put it into a savings account that I have specifically for investing. I take that money and I buy and trade stocks with it. Now I will caution you against using the stock market without knowing what you're doing. Stock market's a gamble. But if you're smart with it, you'll find that you'll end up with a lot more money than you did before. But it's also not an easy way into making money either. I do not recommend using this as a source of income, at least the primary one. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Another 10% of my money I put towards charity. It's always important to give. In fact, the act of giving is being lost on American society today. A lot of people are adopting a mindset that leans closer towards selfishness than it does towards selflessness. And I don't know what's changed around here, but if I remember correctly, our values are still service before self. I don't think that's changed. So this should be good for you. It's important to give. It's important to give more than you take. If you give, it will cause other people to be more inclined to give back to you. Now, I'm not saying go give with an expectation of something in return. But if you are a generous, giving person, that will be reflected in the way that people treat you. So keep that in mind. The last 10% I use in an emergency fund, in case any financial disaster were to occur, in case any hardships were to occur. I always have some money backed up to keep myself in a stable financial situation in case something were to happen. Some financial mistakes are avoidable, others are not. And it's important to know that you are going to make financial mistakes. Just try to avoid the ones you can. You know, one of my mentors, Mr. Jim Rohn, he was in a pickle a little while back. Mr. Rohn, of course, had a lot more money. He was a multimillionaire around this time. And a growing company approached Mr. Rohn, and they asked him to invest in their company. So after some negotiations with the bank, Mr. Rohn decides to invest in this company. And he signs this little note with the bank that says that he will be obligated to pay the company, or to pay the bank back if the company were to go bankrupt. So Mr. Rohn signs it, everything's good, the company pays the money back, everything's good. Well, not really. You see, a couple of years later, the company goes bankrupt. And the bank contacts Mr. Rohn and they go, Mr. Rohn, I see here we have your little note that says you'll pay us back if this company were to ever go bankrupt. And Mr. Rohn is confused because he goes, well, I signed the first note, I didn't ever sign the second note. And what he didn't realize is that he signed a continuing guarantee, meaning that he would be continually responsible for the length of the company's existence. Moral of the story. Read the fine print. There's always someone trying to screw you over. And that's just a fact of life. All good will be attacked. So let's talk about finances a little bit more in beginning a financial career. Some of y'all are closer than others, but this is good for everybody. And this is a very important concept, so take this down. You get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. The marketplace can otherwise be described as reality. You get paid for bringing value. Now you might ask yourself, I go to work and I get paid $10 an hour. How can this be? No, you don't get paid $10 an hour. If you get paid for the time, you can just sit at home and get paid. That's not the way this works. You get paid for the value that you bring to the hour. In the eyes of the company that you work for, you're worth $10. You could be a great family member, you could be a great friend, a great student, but the fact of the matter is, if you're not valuable to the marketplace, you don't make much money. So always strive to increase your value. Very important. Value equals money. Which I know that we all want some of that. So here's how to sort that out. I like to illustrate this concept through a story called The Parable of the Sower. Now this is a biblical story. And that might seem rather strange because this is not a religious course. It's not a religious presentation, nor is it intended to be. But you can't deny the fact that the Bible has some good stories in it that illustrate concepts well, which is my purpose for presenting the parable of the sower. So the Bible tells of a very ambitious sower, and the sower always yielded good seed. Now, like anything, all good will be attacked, as I just finished saying. So when the sower planted his seed into his garden, the birds were hungry that day. and they came and ate some of the seed. So the birds are going to get some of that. To kind of bridge the gap in our minds, the seed can be equated to resources in today's life. Later in the day, a storm hits and kills some of the seed as well. Some of the crops don't grow. So the elements are going to get some too. But you're going to make something of what's left. You can't control the birds. You can't control the elements. That's out of your control. It would be like trying to decide what season it's going to be. You can't control the seasons. You can't control the fact that day follows night. You can't control the fact that winter follows fall. You weren't around for those decisions, neither was I, and those will not change. I've instead focused on the things that you can control, what you have to work with. If you try to change all you have to work with, you won't have much to work with. You can't go, I'll take 9 summers, I'll take 5 falls, I'll take 2 winters and 4 summers. It's not the way that this works. You get one of each, and that will not change. However, you can decide how the seasons affect you. Normally, when it's winter, you're wearing sweatshirts and sweatpants, and you're wearing clothes that cover more skin so you're not cold. But in the summer, that's not necessarily the case. In the summer, you normally wear polos and blouses and t-shirts. You can choose what you wear, which affects a lot of things. So keep that in mind. You can't change seasons, you can change the way that you address them though. So now it is time to discuss a very touchy subject. A subject that I know is immediately going to cause a lot of y'all to totally lose interest in this presentation. But if I were you, I would beware of your cell phone and all other systems of communication. You see, on your phone, Instagram is free, monetarily. On your phone, Instagram is free. You can get it for free and you can use it for free. Not really. Free to get. It's not free to use. In fact, over the course of many years, the use of time on Instagram and social media will cost you a fortune. Yes, I used the word fortune. You'll be surprised how much time is wasted on social media and on television. So instead of wasting time on social media, I would instead use that time to learn a couple of extra skills. The Joker from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight said it best. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. That is one of the most true statements in human existence. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. Always capitalize on your skills. Even the ones that you think don't do anything. See, I have a rather peculiar skill. In my spare time, I like to modify video game systems. I install custom firmware and allow them to do things that the official companies will not allow on their firmware. Now that's a skill that I possess. And I run a little eBay business to modify Nintendo Switch systems. If you market your skills as unique and as strange as a skill might be, because modifying Nintendo Switch systems isn't necessarily a skill that is in high demand. It's not necessarily a skill that a lot of people seek out, but it's a skill, and it will yield you something. It has yielded me a considerable amount of income. If you market your skill in the right place, you will find customers. So let's talk about the other side of the spectrum. Let's talk about difficult people, because we all know them. We all know difficult people. We all know people that irk us, that cause us some problems. And I wanted to tell another parable, and it's the parable of the frog and the scorpion. So here's how that story goes. On a nice summer day, there's a frog that is hopping along to the bank of a river. And the frog is getting ready to jump in the river and swim to the other side. Now, before the frog can get in the water, a scorpion comes along. He engages the frog in conversation. He goes, "Mr. Frog, I see you're trying to get to the other side of the river. I myself would also like to go to the other side of the river, but I'm a scorpion and I can't swim. Would you be so kind as to let me ride on your back, and then you safely deposit me on the other side of the river?" And the frog says, "No way. Scorpions sting frogs. There's no way that I would put myself in a situation like that. You would just sting me up as I'm right in the middle of the river going across, and I would die." And the scorpion goes, "Well, Mr. Frog, with your frog brain, you're not thinking very straight. If I sting you in the middle of the river, you will die, but so will I. And I'm not interested in committing suicide." And the frog goes, "Okay, that makes sense, hop on." So the frog makes his way to the other side of the river, and sure enough, halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog. And the frog cannot believe what happened. He was so sure that the scorpion was going to let him live. And he goes, "Why did you do that? I'm going to die, but so are you. Why would you do that?" And the scorpion goes, "I did it because I am a scorpion. And that is what scorpions do." Moral of the story. People are going to be who they are. No matter what you say to them, no matter what you do, no matter what influence you have. Half y'all are asleep right now. That's not going to change. I can't change it. Y'all are going to take responsibility for that later. People are going to be who they are. People are going to behave the way that they behave. And that will not change. If they look like a duck and they quack like a duck, they're probably a duck. That can be equated to people. If they behave a certain way, that's probably because they are that way. Again, going back to everything, they become a certain person and their actions reflect them. And this is more important to people that are interested in becoming leaders. But it's important not to send ducks to eagle school. People are going to behave according to the person that they are, not the person that you want them to be. So if you're in a leadership role, I would refrain from trying to control things you can't control. And if you are not in a leadership role, and you're just trying to live your life, I would also refrain from trying to control things you can't control. I'd like to use another analogy to illustrate this, and that is the sailboat. You see, a sailboat has three main components. You have the actual boat that the person is on, you have the sail, and you have the wind. Now, obviously, you on the boat, that's you. We can equate the wind to the problems that we encounter, the people that we deal with, the situations we're put in. And we can equate the sail to how we address those problems. The wind is going to blow the same direction it blows. You can't change the wind. But you can change the way the sail is oriented. That will change your destination. So the moral is, the wind blows on us all. The difference in where you end up is how you set the sail. So, to bring everything to a close, let's talk about how to apply this information, because that was a lot. I know that I provided you with a lot of sophisticated information that's hard to process. But the most important thing is that it's a slow process. I'm sure you've heard the saying, you only eat an elephant one bite at a time. Very important to do here. This is a big elephant. And it will probably take a long time for you to master these skills. But if you start now, you will find that in 20 years, 30 years, you will be in a much more desirable life situation, financial situation, marriage situation, a much more desirable situation, period, than you would be any other way. So start implementing these concepts now. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.